Thank you, Katie, for sharing your story. All the survivors tonight are not only their story. These women are successful advocates determined that we work together to educate for prevention, for intervention, for prosecution, and for healing. It takes a community united to make the most effective change. We are thankful to have so many stakeholders here tonight with us, prepared to ignite change. One of the front runners joining us in our united community is Congresswoman Wagner. Congresswoman Wagner represents the 2nd Congressional District of Missouri. She has over 25 years of work in the private sector, community and public service, and the political arena. Representative Wagner's public service began at the grassroots level. She served for 9 years as a local committee woman in the Lafayette Township and went on to chair the Missouri Republican Party. She also served as co-chairman of the Republican National Committee during the first term of President George W. Bush. In 2005, following a nomination by President Bush and confirmation by U.S. Senate, Representative Wagner was sworn in as the 19th U.S. Ambassador to Luxembourg by Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice. During her 4 years as a U.S. Ambassador, Representative Wagner witnessed firsthand the scourge of modern-day slavery. Her experiences began a personal quest to combat this heinous crime. She subsequently worked with law enforcement and diplomatic staff to improve the State Department's annual Trafficking in Persons report. Representative Wagner has been a leader on human trafficking issues in the House of Representatives. As a freshman class representative on the Elective Leadership Committee, she has used her influence to steer the House agenda towards the fight against human trafficking and modern-day slavery. She co-chairs the Human Trafficking Task Force with Representative Carolyn Maloney of New York, where she has been active in spreading awareness of the problem of human trafficking among members of Congress and their staff. Representative Wagner has successfully moved human trafficking to the front of the House of Representatives' 2014 legislative agenda. Partnering with her colleagues in the House and Senate, she has pushed the legislation that would set up Domestic Trafficking Victims Fund, amend the criminal code to facilitate the prosecution of traffickers and increase identification of victims in trafficking. In addition to her legislative efforts, Representative Wagner recently testified at a House Foreign Affairs Committee to the marked increase in human trafficking that occurs during high-profile events like the Super Bowl. She spoke about the need for corporations to partner with law enforcement, nonprofits, and social services to increase awareness of the signs of human trafficking. Representative Wagner believes that the business community's understanding of trafficking must be increased if we are to eliminate this terrible crime from our society. That is why she is excited to support the Exchange Initiative's first annual 2014 Ignite Conference in order to facilitate action and network for solutions to the problem of human trafficking. It is my honor to welcome Congresswoman Wagner.
Pardon my cold hands. Are you all cold? I don't think we've warmed up yet. Ignite's the right name for this, I think, this weekend. Thank you very, very much, Jane. That was very lovely. I appreciate it very, very much. It's great to be with you and joining you at the first of many, I will tell you, conferences to spark action against human trafficking, Ignite. Many, many thanks to Jane Quinn and to Molly Hackett. I had the pleasure of doing a radio interview with Molly the other day, and certainly Kimberly Ritter, who's been fighting this fight for so very long in such a courageous leadership position. Thank you for making this conference all possible. Let's give them a round of applause. I'm also grateful to be here in my hometown of St. Louis, even as chilly as it might be. I'm grateful to be here and thank the people at the Exchange Initiative and Nick's Conference and Meeting Management for organizing this very important event. I'd also like to recognize their ongoing leadership and dedication to fighting this terrible, terrible crime that affects the most vulnerable members of our society. Most importantly, I want to recognize all the survivors. Holly, Christine, and Katie, thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for your presence here today. Your strength gives us strength. Your resolve gives us inspiration. And your steadfast commitment to ending sex trafficking gives us all tremendous hope. Thank you for your courage. I also want to recognize here tonight those who work in victims' services. There are many of you with us here this evening and throughout the conference. Their tireless efforts in helping survivors recover and heal and forge new lives out of the horrors of sexual enslavement make it all of our efforts, I think, worthwhile. I want to recognize criminal justice professionals that are here tonight. These hard-working prosecutors and investigators and police officers are on the front lines every single day protecting our nation's children from those who would seek to exploit them. I want to, because he's here joining us this evening, mention Officer Jeff Roediger, who's here. Jeff is a dear friend and has been fighting this fight on so many different levels for a number of years, and I know is the go-to guy, and you all, in so many ways, to get these young victims off the streets. He's working with Sergeant Adam Kavanaugh and Detective Mike Slaughter. St. Louis County Police and law enforcement do a terrific job, and we've watched that program grow over time. So thank you. Thank you very much for your commitment, Jeff. I believe strongly that partnership is the key to our success in stopping sex trafficking. This gathering allows so many different stakeholders the opportunity to share ideas and, I hope, solutions to wipe this heinous act off the face of the earth. As members of Congress, we must also partner with you. I welcome the opportunity to learn how we can best support your efforts and how we can make sure that Congress provides you with all that you need to combat this terrible injustice. As a former United States ambassador, I was exposed firsthand to the horrors of human trafficking on an international level. I witnessed and reported on the devastating consequences of human trafficking where innocent children were dragged into the dark abyss of sex slavery. I worked in close coordination with law enforcement, with the foreign governments, and certainly with our United States Department of State and the private sector to shine a light on this effort to stop the heinous exploitation from happening. But never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that human trafficking was so rampant in the United States of America. In our neighborhoods, our school districts, and in our faith communities. While some of my colleagues might think that this could never happen in their home district, there are young women being forced into prostitution right now in virtually every congressional district across this nation. It is hiding in plain sight. According to the United Nations, and I know you may have seen some of these statistics, but they are so profound that I think they should be repeated. Human trafficking generates $9.5 billion in revenue every year in the United States of America. The Department of Justice has estimated that approximately 300,000 children currently are at risk of being prostituted in the United States alone. Shockingly, as we've heard, the average age of entry into prostitution for a child victim in the United States is 13 to 14 years old. As a mother and an aunt of teenage daughters, I am especially concerned that the victims be given a voice. They are not nameless faceless children. They are our daughters, our granddaughters, our nieces, and our neighbors. They are the vulnerable youth of our society, the ones who should be protected the most, not exploited for money or for greed. As legislators, we have an obligation to come together and do something because we can, and because we should, and because we must. Partnership between the public and private sector is the key to combating human trafficking. That's why I'm so proud of the efforts of extraordinary businesses like Nix Management. Many times, frontline employees in the transportation and hospitality industries are the ones best suited to identify trafficking victims and their predators. As many of you are aware, conferences and conventions can also be magnets for sex trafficking. The conference and hospitality industry, along with corporate partners, have a vital role to play in combating this sexual exploitation. The trainings done by the Exchange Initiative are an excellent model in how the private sector can assist law enforcement in identifying victims. Increased awareness and training will lead to more victims being identified, which is a critical step in breaking the cycle of exploitation. But our work does not end there. Congress has the opportunity to take a stand to protect our children from the devastating consequences of sex trafficking. For the last 13 years, the House of Representatives has not passed any new pieces of legislation dealing with human trafficking. During that time, the problem has changed and the problem has evolved. Our efforts to fight it need to be updated to match the problem as it exists today. That's why I'm supporting several pieces of bipartisan legislation that would give law enforcement, prosecutors, and social services the necessary tools and resources to combat human trafficking and to boost support for victims. I applaud the work of my congressional colleagues who are active on this issue, especially Congressman Ted Poe, who will be addressing the conference tomorrow. Congressman Poe is a congressman from the 2nd District in Texas. He's a wonderful man. He is somewhere between Houston and here. God willing, his plane will in fact land, which I'm sure it will, but I don't know. I'm going to head back out to the suburbs here a little bit later on, and not sure what the night will bring, so I don't know if I'll be here in the morning to introduce him. So I want to say a word or two about Congressman Poe tonight. He served for 22 years as a criminal court judge in Houston, and prior to that, he served in the Harris County District Attorney's Office, where he became the chief felony prosecutor and never lost a jury trial. He serves on our House Judiciary Committee and is the founder of the Victims' Rights Caucus. He has been a long-standing advocate for victims of crime, and he's dedicated his life to promoting justice and giving voice to survivors. As a member of Congress, Representative Poe has introduced multiple pieces of legislation, many of them that we'll be picking up here in the year 2014, including the End Sex Trafficking Act of 2013, and this year, the Justice for Victims of Trafficking Act, which is a very comprehensive approach to addressing the problem of human trafficking in the United States. He is a kindred spirit and a champion of victims' rights, and I know that he'll be here to join us very, very soon, and I know you'll get to hear from him tomorrow morning also. We've succeeded, I will tell you, as Jane said, in making human trafficking a major legislative priority in the House of Representatives in 2014. I'd like to also briefly mention another issue that demands legislative action and is one that I am undertaking. Over the last 10 or so years, prostitution has migrated to an online marketplace. Online classified services such as Backpage.com have become the vehicles for advertising the victims of the child sex trade to the world. Online customers use websites like Backpage to order an underage girl to their hotel rooms as easily as a delivery pizza. It is despicable, and it must stop. It is our moral obligation and my legislative duty to ensure that venues for the advertisement of children for sex are not allowed to operate. That's why I'll be introducing the Stop Advertising Victims of Exploitation, or SAVE Act. The SAVE Act is designed to close internet marketplaces that host advertisements for the commercial exploitation of minors. For too long, the operators of websites like Backpage have hidden behind outdated laws while getting rich off the sexual exploitation of children. Recently, 47 state attorneys general signed a letter to Congress asking for federal action to change the law, and we have heard them. I end my remarks today with the highest praise for the hard work of everyone here in attendance. Your efforts to raise awareness of human trafficking are critical to combating this reprehensible crime. It's only through increased awareness and resources and legislative action that we will one day realize a society that protects its most vulnerable victims from sexual exploitation and enslavement. I am grateful to all of you for coming. Please enjoy the conference and our wonderful icy city of St. Louis. I don't know that many of you will venture out, but thank you from the bottom of my heart for all that you do and all the efforts that you will continue to travel on. Thank you.